So am I late for the month for a market update? Yes. Here's why. So I've been working with buyers, getting them under contract before things have really started to get aggressive, which they have in the last week or so. Also planning when to list with my sellers to really time the spring market to the best that we have the ability to do so. So I'm in a weird spot on the screen. I figured that is where I will block the least amount of data for y'all. And sure enough, there's a chipper truck outside, so hopefully it doesn't pick up that noise for you. But I just wanted to show y'all where we're at. So I will say I was expecting the market to pick up in January. It has. It has certainly picked up already more than I expected. It's getting aggressive quickly. So luckily I've gotten my buyers under contract just before things got really nuts. We had a little bit of negotiating room, and I saw a bunch of the brokers in my office yesterday, the other agents, and they were saying they're dealing with 5, 6, 7 competing offers already, which for the first week of January or first 2 weeks is busier than I would expect. However, the rates are already in the 5s. So rates went down into the high 5s in December, especially for FHA and VA buyers. It's about quarter point less. Conventional buyers are in the 5.875 to 6, buying down the rate just a little bit down into the mid to high 5s. So we are in that high 5, low 6s territory on rates, and the people that are on it, and they're getting out and they're trying to snag something before it gets really crazy, but there's already bidding wars on things. So not saying it's too late. It will only get busier. My prediction is it will only get busier through February, March, April. And into May, just because the Fed has already committed to doing some rate cuts this year. A lot of the lenders feel pretty confident that they're not going to have a bunch of people buy right now and refi in 6 months. As well as a lot of the people that bought in the last year and a half or so are already starting to look at refis of, hey, I bought my house at 6.75%. Now the rates for maybe FHA are 5.5, 5.75. Maybe I should go refi. So that's already getting the market activity going. And I've had people that are like, yep, I think I'm ready now, that have been on the fence for a couple of years. So I think that's going to drive a lot of activity. But I also think it's going to open up some inventory that we haven't had available for the last couple of years. So the people that have been like, no, I don't want to give up my 3.5%, 4.5% rate. And they're like, well, I'm at 4, I'm going to 5.5, but I really need to move. I need an extra bathroom. I need a second bedroom. I need whatever. It is driving those people to pay the little bit of difference and make the changes, because it's not going from 4% to 7%. It's going from 4% to 5.5 or 3.5 to 5.5. And oh, by the way, I have some equity that I can work with. So I'm not going to have as much of a loan balance as I thought. So it is really starting to encourage activity in the market quicker than I would have expected, but in a good way. So for market, that's kind of my little synopsis up to start. So as I always say, I have my South Metro Denver Realtor Association data set. That is a 7-county Denver metro area. So it is much more reflective of what is actually happening in the Denver metro as opposed to Boulder or Weld or the mountains or something like that. And you can see prices bottomed out for December closings. A lot of times that'll happen for December, January closings, because January closings were December shoppers. Now, we did have a little bit of pickup in activity in December relative to what we would have normally had, and I'll show you that in a minute. It was less than the previous month, but it was more than I would expect in December. Usually things just are dead in December. They tank. Nobody does anything. The last couple weeks of December, when people started to realize, hey, the rates are in the 5s, maybe I can snag something now and get ahead of it, we saw a little bit of an early pickup, which we haven't seen in a couple of years, but going back to 2018, 2019, which is what I said last year our market was very similar to, that was not the case. Things kind of tanked off. So we definitely had a little bit of pickup in activity. So yes, our prices are low. I'm not sure how the January closings are going to shake out. I think they're going to be pretty flat to December, maybe down just a touch. So our median closed price for the 7-county Denver metro for December closings, November shoppers, was $550, and this includes single family, townhome, condos, attached and detached. And you can see our average was just about flat. So $651 to $659 and change. Not much change there. You can see that doesn't usually happen. Our January prices are December shoppers, and that's usually the lowest point of the year. That's why the last market update I did for November is I said, hey, or I guess it was December. Yeah, this is January. So the December one, I said, this is the bottom, guys. Now is the time to go snag something. So you can see that's where we're going to be. And then it's going to start to pick up and our prices are going to start to go up for the season. So you can see historically our January closings, our December shoppers, 2020 was a shit show. We're not going to go to that. But even 2019, things tanked off. January closings, December shoppers was always lower. So, and I think if you want to go back further, as I always love data, right? Let's go look at the up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down seasonality. So you can see historically, those December, January prices are where things bottom out. I fully expect it to get more and more busy. You can see obviously with our market appreciation the last 2-3 years, why it's just nuts compared to historically a little bit more consistent appreciation over time. And I'm probably backwards on the camera. Yeah, I am. Whatever. Y'all get the point. So I'm going to go back to a 5-year timeline because that's a little bit helpful for us to give a smaller amount of context. And so for pricing, that's where we're at. New listings. This is very normal. Not a lot of people listed in December. 1,600 new listings. That's the least number of new listings. Let's go back even further. Since before I have data. So you want to talk about low inventory, right? There is your low inventory as far as new listings coming on the market. The builders are also throttling back. So they were offering some pretty heavy incentives towards the end of last year because they weren't sure what the rates were doing. They were buying down the rates really heavily and buying rate packages to offer those to their buyers. So new builds were definitely a really good deal to snag at the end of last year. I think there's definitely some still out there. I was showing one last night that they were dropping the price pretty heavily on, and that was actually in Cap Hill area in Denver. And it's because the building's done, and they've only sold 60% of the units. They like to have those things sold before they're even done with them, so they're not sitting on this open inventory. So those they were definitely aggressively dropping the prices on. They're not offering the big lending incentives because the rates are pretty reasonable now in the 5s, right? 5s to low 6s. So anyway, but this shows there's still not a lot of inventory, guys. Let's look at active listings. That's going to have a little bit more just because nobody was shopping in December, November, December. So, but you can see the fact that we had 7,000 available properties, and this is at the end of November, and available means like the grocery store. You walk in, there's inventory on the shelf. You can pick a cereal box out of 100, right? Or in this case, almost 7,100 in November. Only 4,800 in December. Our inventory does go down in December, but not usually that much from November to December. So where did the inventory go? People bought it, right? People were sucking up that inventory. And so we're going to go over here to pending listings. And you can see like, oh yeah, the pendings are down, sure. But look at the difference between November and December compared to other years. Like I said, usually things die off in December. Nobody does anything between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Realtors just know like everybody's doing holiday stuff. Nobody's actually looking. We go work on our business. We do business planning and set up our systems and stuff for the next year because so few people are out shopping. However, not the case. We definitely had some pickup in activity that I was not expecting, which is cool. It just means things are heating up faster than I thought they were coming. So from November to December, your pendings only went down by 150 or so. Look at previous years. So even last year, from November to December, we had about 350 less pendings in December. So 350 less properties that went under contract. Look historically, 2018, it went from 3,300 in November pendings to 2,800. Okay? 2019, 3,700 down to 3,000. So 700 less people went and got a property under contract versus 150, right? So that shows that more people were out there, more people were sucking up that inventory. Obviously, this is not 5,000 properties, right? The available inventory that I showed you, the active listings versus what went under contract, it's not 2,000, I guess, between the 7,000 and the 5,000. It's not that 2,000 additional properties went under contract, but we did have, we had 2,300 properties go under contract and only 1,600 new listings. So, and a lot of those people were So a lot of that difference is going to be sellers that were pulling their house off the market and saying, you know what, I don't want my house listed for Christmas. Let's just relist it in January, right? So people that had it listed through maybe October, November, didn't get much, said, and us agents, we recommend that a lot, right? If the property's not vacant, if somebody's living in it, we're like, hey, things tend to get really slow in December. Let's pull the listing. Let's give it a month. We could put it on as a new listing in January. And that way you have the opportunity to kind of get fresh buyers to look at it. It looks new. It looks fresh. It doesn't look like it's been sitting around stagnant and people asking what's wrong with it. Well, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. It just means there weren't a lot of people out shopping. But I was very surprised to see such a small change in the pendings. I expected this to kind of trail off and tank, and that means people were out there those last couple of weeks getting some pendings, getting some properties under contract. So that's all good news, right? Good news in my world. People are out there buying things. People are moving. There's inventory to buy. Obviously not very much available inventory, but there are still some things sitting on the shelf. There just wasn't a bunch of new stuff. So I fully expect more inventory to come on the market, more new listings with these sellers that are like, hey, I want to sell, I want to move, I want to do stuff. But a lot of the sellers that are moving, and this is going to be interesting, a lot of the sellers that are moving have equity and have options. They don't always have to list their house, get it under contract, then go scramble to go find something in the next 30 to 60 days, do a rent back, all that. I think a lot of people still will, but a lot of people have so much equity that they have options to do different things, or they can buy first and then sell after because they want to take their time, right? They've got enough money in their home that they can leverage that, and they now have choices on how to make that move and not have to move twice or list their house first or do other things. So I think we're going to see that inventory, but I think we're going to see it later in the spring once a lot of those sellers go find what they want first, and then they're going to list after. So I think we're going to have the inventory come up. I'm not sure if it's going to hit early spring or late spring. I'm kind of feeling maybe towards the later, but it just kind of depends on what other agents recommend to their clients out in the current market. So months of supply, you can see we're a little bit on the high end, still less than 2 months of supply. What months of supply is so essentially if no more houses came on the market tomorrow, builders stop building, sellers stop selling, and what is currently available on the shelf were to sell out with the current demand situation, that means that, hey, in a little less than 6 weeks, all of those homes would be soaked up and sold. So and that means sold and closed. You can see obviously 2021, 2022, while the rates were still really, really good coming out of COVID and before the rates shot up, that we had crazy quick moving market. And the inventory wasn't necessarily super low. You can see on the new listings, we had lots of new listings. We just had so much demand that it soaked it up super fast and it wasn't going to last very long. That's why the months of supply was so low. So this is why I've been comparing our market last year to 2018, 2019. You can see how quickly the market moves, how quickly the houses sell, the kind of competition was very reflective of the feeling the agents had then. And that's what the data confirms. So I think it's going to get pretty aggressive though. I don't know. I don't think we'll get back into 2021 territory or early 2022 just because the buying power isn't there with the rates in the 5s versus when they were in the 3s. But I think we're going to have some competition. I think it's definitely 2018, 2019, maybe a little bit more kind of in between. We're going to have competition, but it's not going to be medieval bloodbath situation, I don't think. So percent of close price to list price. People have been getting a little bit of deals. I'm curious. I haven't looked at this number before I started shooting. Maybe I should have. And this one always gives me a little bit better number on variability on average. So you can see December shoppers had a little bit of negotiating room, which was definitely the case for my buyers as well, and what I always recommend. I think this is going to start getting back over the 100, 101, 102. I don't know if we're going to get to the 104. I don't think we're going to get there. I think we're going to shake out in this maybe 101, 102, 103 range for the spring market months. But we'll see how it goes. So showings for my sellers, this is where you're going to see some major difference in the activity, is you're going to have a lot more showings. I don't think it's going to take as many showings to get to pending, but I think each listing is going to get more showings just because more buyers are out looking. So it kind of depends. This is, as I always preface it, the showing data is a sample. We have 2 different showing services that most agents in the Denver metro market here use. I would say this captures maybe 60 to 80%, probably 70, 80% of the showings in our current market. But it is not a complete data set. It is a large representative sample of the Denver metro showings. So you can see in the fall months, it takes more showings to get to pending because people have choices. People have options. They're not deciding quite as quickly. In the summer or in the spring, I think it's going to go down, as it obviously does, because people will be like, hey, this is a nice one. I got to get it. It's not, and there's going to be more buyers out there making decisions quickly because they're not going to have the time and the luxury to sit there and just dilly-dally along and be like, oh, well, it'll be here in 4 or 5 days. Maybe I'll think about it. Maybe I'll look at it a second time, things like that. My rule of thumb for sellers has always been around the 10 mark, roughly, and it's depends on what those numbers show and depends on the seasonality, right? So in the spring market, I usually say, hey, 1 for every 8, 10, 12 showings, usually about 1 in 10 showings should get us an offer. If it's not, we need to look at the feedback and determine what are we doing or what do we need to do? Do we need to fix something? Does 5 out of the 10 showings say, oh my gosh, I hate the countertops? Cool, maybe we go change the countertops and it's cheaper than doing a price drop. Are they saying, hey, it's the neighbor next door? Cool, then maybe we need to price to compensate because we can't really change the neighbor next door. Maybe we go knock on the door, talk to the neighbor, all that kind of stuff. So in the spring market, I usually say 1 to 8 to 1 in 10 showings should probably yield us an offer of some sort. In the fall market, that's obviously a little bit different because that showings to pending number is a little bit higher. So maybe it's 1 to every 15, 1 to every 18 showing should probably give us an offer. So the showings per listing, though, you can see for the winter months has definitely been lower, which is why the properties have been sitting on the market longer. So let's go to days in MLS. You can see our median days in MLS climbs to a month. That's why showings take a couple of months, because it takes 2 months worth of showings to have enough showings to get an offer. This will go down quickly. Quickly. And as you can see, it happened last year, and it took very few days to sell things for 2020 and 2021. I don't like comparing things to those years, obviously. I'm going to go into a 5 year, so just a little bit closer frame of reference. But you can see I think it's going to go down in January. Normally, I think it's going to go early. So normally in January, people are just kind of getting started. I think it's going to take our days on market is going to go down. I don't think it's going to go up like it did the last couple of years. We'll see. Kind of depends on how long those properties were sitting on the market. If it's all new listings, a lot of times we don't have enough new listings in January to skew that days in MLS down. It's that remaining December inventory that's already got 2, 3, 4 weeks on the market that gets sucked up in January that kind of throws this median up. So, as you can see, things are not going to sit around as long as the market warms up, as buyers realize that they can get decent viable rates, as the sellers realize it doesn't cost them an arm and a leg. The golden handcuffs are kind of loosening a little bit, so maybe we'll slip out of those and be like, I got to pay some more, but I don't have to pay. It's not a break the bank difference, and by the way, I've got enough equity, and my income situation is different where it's worth it to me now to go make that move versus it's not worth it to pay double. Now maybe I'm paying 30, 40% more every month. So that's my take on the market at the moment. I think I hit all the big stuff. I'm not really going to hit price per square foot. All that stuff really doesn't matter right now. Big thing is, prices are going to go up in the spring. They always do. That's when people are out looking. That's when sellers want to sell. That's when all of our market, I think, is going to get really busy for the first half of the year. And keep in mind, we have an election year, okay? It is going to be gnarly in the fall. So I fully expect it to get really aggressive and then just kind of fall off of a cliff in August, September, October. Probably September, October. The closer we get to major elections, the more people tend to sit on their hands. They sit on their wallets. They're like, I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm just going to stay put. For those looking for buying opportunities, yes, you'll have the spring market price appreciation to pay, but if we get into crazy bidding situations, you won't have the competition, I don't think. So if you are a low down payment buyer, here's the meat and potatoes of this, guys. If you are a low down payment or down payment assistance buyer, get in quick before it gets aggressive. Might already be a little bit on the late side, but it's worth trying. It's worth checking out. It depends on your situation. There are still properties that are sitting on from December. Sorry for the interruption. So you can get in quick. If it gets too aggressive in the bidding war, gets too nuts, plan to do a month-to-month or a short-term lease renewal or something like that to get you to that August, September, October timeframe when there's not going to be as much competition out there. And that's always what I've been recommending to my buyers in any seasonal market. Go when no one else is looking and you have some opportunities, or you could certainly go in November and December, because a lot of people, I don't think they're coming out of the election, no matter what the results are. I don't think a lot of people are going to jump back into things. I think they're, everybody's always like, I can't believe this happened, or the other half's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. But then it's not like, hey, gung-ho for major life changes. So second half of the year is your opportunity to not compete as much for those buyers. For sellers, I don't think there's going to be a lot of activity in the fall, like I just mentioned. So I recommend the first half of the year. I am lining up my seller clients right now. I am definitely filling up for February, March. And I do have the capacity for a few more sellers for that time period, as well as I think getting a couple things on here at the end of January is a really good idea. As the market swings up, go ahead and grab that activity. And then even through May, I'm not sure if we'll carry into June this year, just because I think a lot of people will travel and do things in the summertime. But I usually say February, March, April, May is your best window if proceeds are the goal. If you have the type of property, that may be better for an investor buyer or something like that, that second half of the year is going to be a really good opportunity to list that property and have somebody come in and do those renovations and relist in the following spring. So investors love to buy in October, November, December. Owner occupants love to buy in the spring. So take advantage of those target markets. And if you need to sell sometime in the meantime, it's not a bad idea. It just means we have to be a little bit more strategic in how we present the property, how we price the property, and that we get ahead of what we know is going to come in the market adjustment the second half of the year. So that's my preach for today. Sorry I got a little long, guys. I had a lot of information I wanted to get across to y'all as the market warms up. So if you are looking to buy or sell, if you want to interview me to help you with that, I would love the opportunity. I am so passionate about using data and seasonality to a client's advantage, and did that for my buyer just a couple of weeks ago. I know he's super excited about it, and he actually found me from YouTube in these videos. So definitely hit me up. I have a calendar link down below. You can get directly on my calendar and pick a time slot that works for you. Same for sellers. If you are looking at what property improvements to make, call me sooner rather than later. So with my sellers, I'm already talking about, hey, are we doing flooring? Are we doing paint? Are we doing light fixtures? What do we need to do so we can get ahead of the curve? I don't want you to spend money on things that do not make sense or do not give you an ROI. Let's not waste your money. Let's use it smart. So I do have a couple videos on what improvements I typically suggest for most of my sellers, but it is very case-by-case basis. So reach out to me, schedule an appointment, and we can make a game plan there. So thanks so much for the time. If this was helpful, hit the like button. That will help other people find it, and y'all have a great day.